You've just stepped into the Motivation Library, a place where struggles turn into stories of strength and dreams transform into destinies. Every book is a path, every chapter a step forward. Today, we walk a new path. Let's begin. The road nobody tells you about. This book isn't about motivation. It's about transformation. It's not a story of endless wins. It's a story of what it takes to keep walking when you've already lost more than you thought you could. Because the road to Relentless isn't a path you find, it's one you forge. It's not paved with certainty. It's carved through chaos. Every chapter in this book is a mirror, reflecting a part of you that's already stronger than you realize. It's the voice that whispers when everything else screams, quit. It's the reminder that sometimes the only way to rise is through the rubble. The meaning of relentless. Relentless doesn't mean hard-headed or heartless. It means heart-deep. It means showing up when you're exhausted. It means believing when logic says stop. It means choosing purpose over pity, passion over pause, and fire over fear, again and again and again. To be relentless is to be fully alive. It's to live with scars and stories, not excuses. It's to know that every failure, every heartbreak, every rejection was not wasted. It was weaving you into someone unstoppable. The moment that changes everything. There comes a point in every person's life when the question shifts from "can I do this?" to "will I keep going no matter what?" That's the moment that defines you. Not when you win, but when you refuse to walk away. You see, success isn't reserved for the chosen. It's earned by the consistent. By the ones who fall and rise so many times that pain itself gives up trying to stop them. That's the heartbeat of this book, the quiet, stubborn rhythm of those who keep showing up. This is not just a book. This is a mirror for the fighter in you, a map for the dreamer in you, a spark for the exhausted, the uncertain, the almost gave-up version of you. Each page will take you through the unseen grind, the inner wars, the darkness before dawn. You'll walk alongside legends and ordinary heroes alike, all connected by one truth. They refuse to stop. You'll see that relentless isn't a finish line, it's a mindset. A lifelong vow that no matter how hard life hits, you will rise, again and again and again. A promise before you begin. This journey will not flatter you. It will forge you. It will remind you that the dust you came from is the same ground that will hold your legacy. That every breakdown is a blueprint in disguise. That every no is a doorway to a deeper why. And by the time you reach the end, you'll realize something beautiful. You were never chasing greatness. You were becoming it. To you, the one still standing. If you've ever been told you're too much, too driven, too different, this book is your echo. If you've ever been counted out, this book is your comeback. If you've ever been tired but still whispered, not yet, this book was written for you. Because the road to relentless isn't out there. It's right here, inside you. Now it's your turn to walk, to rise, to fight, to never stop. Because once you begin this road, there's no going back. Only forward. Only fire. Only the unbreakable truth that you were built to be relentless. Chapter 1. The Spark in the Dust. There's always a moment, quiet, forgotten, almost invisible, when everything begins. Not the day you achieve something great. Not when the crowd claps. But the moment before all that, when you're still lost, uncertain, small. It's the moment when life looks at you, covered in dust, and asks, "Are you ready to fight for something more?" Every relentless soul has that origin story, not of victory, but of awakening. Before the glory, there was always the grind. Before the triumph, the tears. Before the roar, the silence. The spark that started everything. Picture a boy sitting in a dark room, late at night. The world outside is sleeping. He's staring at the ceiling, wondering why he feels so empty. His dreams used to roar like thunder, but now they whisper like ghosts. He's failed another test. Got turned down from another job. Another friend told him to be realistic. And as the clock ticks, he feels the weight of something he can't quite name. The quiet ache of potential that hasn't found its way out yet. He doesn't know it, but this is the beginning. The dust around him is about to ignite. Because that's how it happens. The spark doesn't come when you're strong. It comes when you're broken, when your knees hit the ground, when every voice says, "You can't." That's when the small flame of defiance rises, the whisper that says, "Watch me." The anatomy of a beginning. Purpose rarely walks in like a hero. It sneaks in through cracks of pain. It's in the heartbreak that teaches you empathy. It's in the failure that teaches you grit. It's in the disappointment that forces you to grow roots instead of wings. You don't find your purpose by waiting for clarity. You build it in the dark, one decision, one mistake, one attempt at a time. Every great creator, athlete, and leader began in dust. Oprah Winfrey was fired from her first TV job because she was deemed unfit for television. Thomas Edison failed 1,000 times trying to invent the light bulb. J.K. Rowling was living on welfare when she wrote Harry Potter in cafes, her dream wrapped in rejection letters. They didn't begin with certainty. They began with hunger. And that hunger, born in pain, became their spark. The ordinary life, the extraordinary hunger. Maybe your life looks ordinary right now. A job that doesn't light your soul. A dream you talk about but haven't dared to chase. A version of yourself you catch glimpses of in daydreams but never meet in real life. That's okay. The road to relentless always begins in the ordinary. The difference is, some people stop there and others don't. Relentless people aren't born with more talent. They're just the ones who decided that ordinary wasn't going to be the end of their story. They refuse to numb the hunger. They feed it. They stop asking for permission to dream. When pain becomes purpose, there's a kind of pain that destroys you, and a kind that builds you. The first breaks your spirit. The second breaks your limits. When you begin to see pain as a teacher instead of a punishment, everything shifts. You stop asking, why me? And start asking, what now? Because purpose often hides behind the very things that hurt you most. The heartbreak that taught you compassion. The loss that taught you to value what's real. The failure that stripped your ego and showed you who you truly are. Relentless souls don't run from the fire. They walk through it. They understand that to rise, you must first burn. The road nobody applauds. We live in a world obsessed with results, but the relentless know the truth. The real road to greatness is invisible. It's the early mornings when nobody's watching. The late nights when doubt sits beside you like a shadow. The days when you question why you even started. Relentless people don't wait for motivation. They build momentum through movement. They know that consistency is louder than inspiration. That sweat, not talent, earns the crown. Because before success becomes visible, it's just pain, practice, and patience. The world only sees the finish line. But the relentless, they remember the dirt on their shoes, the silence of their struggle, the blood in their knuckles. They wear their scars like armor, not shame. Every spark has a story. Consider a woman named Amara. At 27, she was laid off from her job. No savings, no backup plan, no confidence. She cried for days, scrolling through social media, watching others win. Until one morning, she wrote in her journal, "If I'm at rock bottom, I might as well build something here." She started freelancing, then building small projects, then learning new skills at 3 a.m. 2 years later, she built a six-figure business, not because she was lucky, but because she refused to stay down. Or Malik, an athlete who tore his ACL right before the biggest match of his career. Doctors told him he might never play again. But while others trained their bodies, Malik trained his mind. Visualization, journaling, therapy. He rebuilt his strength inch by inch, rep by rep. 2 years later, he returned to the field, not the same player, but a stronger man. He said, "I stopped chasing my old self. I started chasing my new one." That's the essence of relentlessness. You don't come back the same, you come back forged. The moment you decide, there will come a night when you look in the mirror and realize, no one is coming to save you. No mentor, no opportunity, no miracle. It's you. And that realization, as painful as it feels, is your liberation. Because when you stop waiting for someone to believe in you and start believing in yourself, the road begins. That's the moment your ordinary story turns extraordinary. The moment the dust starts to glow. The spark within you. Every dreamer, every fighter, every believer has that one defining moment when they say, "I refuse to be a victim of my circumstances." That decision, not talent, not luck, is the turning point. The road to relentless doesn't begin with greatness. It begins with a whisper, a spark, a choice. It begins with the day you decide that your story deserves more than survival. It deserves significance. So, ask yourself, what pain in your life is trying to teach you something? What failure is secretly offering you direction? What hunger have you been silencing? Because somewhere beneath the dust of your doubt, your spark is waiting. And once you ignite it, once you take that first trembling step, there's no going back. You'll stumble, you'll fall, you'll question everything. But you'll rise again and again until the world can't help but see your fire. Because that's what relentless means. To fall and still move forward. To hurt and still have hope. To fail and still believe. The road won't be easy. It's not supposed to be. But it will be yours. And that, more than anything, is what makes it worth walking. Key takeaways. Purpose is born in the dust, not the spotlight. Pain isn't punishment. It's preparation. The world may not see your grind, but your persistence is your greatest proof. Hunger turns the ordinary into extraordinary. Your spark starts small. Protect it, feed it, and let it become your fire. Action step. Tonight, write down one moment of pain or rejection that still lingers in your mind. Then ask yourself, what could this be trying to build within me? Turn your wound into your why. Because from the dust of defeat, the spark of destiny is born. And this, right here, is where your road to relentless begins. Chapter 2. The Breaking Point. Every relentless journey has that moment. The moment when everything inside you wants to stop. When your chest tightens, your eyes burn, and every part of your soul whispers, I can't do this anymore. That's the breaking point. The invisible edge between who you are and who you're meant to become. It's not glamorous. It doesn't come with an audience or applause. It often comes in silence, behind closed doors, with tears that nobody sees. But the truth no one tells you is this. The breaking point isn't the end. It's the beginning of the person you were always meant to be. The night everything shattered. There's a story about a young boxer named Eli. He had trained for years for one shot, the national championship. He gave up parties, comfort, relationships, and rest. His entire world existed between the ropes of that ring. And on the night that was supposed to define his destiny, he lost. Not by a small margin, but brutally, publicly, humiliatingly. He walked out of that arena to the sound of silence. Even his coach didn't know what to say. He went home that night, sat on the floor of his small apartment, and stared at his gloves. The same gloves that had once made him feel invincible. Now they looked like symbols of failure. He thought about quitting, about walking away, about finally accepting that maybe he wasn't built for greatness after all. And then something strange happened. He cried, not out of defeat, but out of release. The kind of cry that empties you completely, until there's nothing left but truth. In that stillness, he realized something. He hadn't lost his strength. He had just lost his why. And that night, he made a decision that would change everything. If this is what breaking feels like, I'll build from here. The power of breaking. The breaking point isn't where weak people give up. It's where strong people are forged. It's where life stops testing your skill and starts testing your spirit. We think strength is about pushing through pain, but real strength begins when the pain pushes back and you don't run. Think about the Japanese art of kintsugi, repairing broken pottery with gold. The cracks aren't hidden, they're highlighted. Because the value doesn't come from being perfect. It comes from being broken beautifully. That's what happens when you reach your breaking point. You don't shatter, you shift. You don't fall apart, you fall open. And what rises from that moment isn't the same person who fell. It's a reborn one. The breaking point of legends. Every legend has one. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in a prison cell, losing everything, freedom, time, family, but never losing purpose. That cell didn't destroy him, it refined him. Steve Jobs was fired from the company he founded. Imagine that, being exiled from your own creation. But that rejection became his reinvention. Malala Yousafzai faced bullets for her beliefs, yet stood taller afterward, turning her pain into global change. Their greatness wasn't born from their victories. It was born from their breaking points. They reached the edge of what they could handle, and built a bridge anyway. That's what makes someone relentless. Not that they never break, but that breaking becomes the birthplace of something unstoppable. The silent battles. You don't have to be a public figure to face a breaking point. You could be the single mother working 3 jobs just to keep the lights on. The student hiding depression behind perfect grades. The entrepreneur watching their dream fall apart one rejection at a time. Breaking points wear many faces. Sometimes they look like exhaustion. Sometimes like heartbreak. Sometimes like the quiet moments where you whisper, "What's the point?" But what's hidden in those cracks is clarity. Because when life strips away everything unnecessary, your image, your ego, your illusion of control, only truth remains. And truth, even when painful, is freedom. When giving up looks tempting, there's a point in every journey where giving up looks easier than going on, where rest turns into retreat, where you tell yourself, maybe I wasn't meant for this. But the difference between those who quit and those who rise is one decision. Not a grand, cinematic declaration. Just a quiet, trembling choice to try again. It's the single parent who goes to work despite the weight of yesterday. The artist who paints through rejection. The athlete who gets up before dawn because the fire inside won't let them sleep. Relentless isn't about having endless energy. It's about choosing courage over comfort, again and again, especially when you're tired. The science of breaking. From a psychological perspective, breaking points are moments when our nervous system hits its limit, when stress, failure, or loss exceed our emotional capacity. But what researchers also found is this. It's in those moments that neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change, skyrockets. That means your lowest points are literally rewiring your mind for strength, adaptability, and endurance. Your breakdown is building your breakthrough, biologically. So when you say, I can't take this anymore, understand that something powerful is happening beneath that pain. You're evolving. The rebuild. After Eli's defeat, he returned to the gym 6 months later. He didn't train like before. He trained differently, slower, more intentional, more humble. He said, I stopped chasing victory. I started chasing mastery. That year, he didn't win a title, but he regained himself. And 2 years later, he became the national champion, not because he was stronger, but because he'd learned that true power comes from purpose, not pressure. The breaking point wasn't his end. It was his initiation. Your breaking point is a mirror. Look back at the moments that nearly broke you. The betrayal, the rejection, the loss. You survived them. You're still here. That means the worst moments didn't defeat you. They revealed you. You learned who your real friends were. You discovered strength you didn't know you had. You found out what truly matters and what never did. Breaking doesn't ruin your story. It rewrites it. It's the part where your character becomes undeniable. The shift. There's a quiet magic in reaching the edge. When you've given everything, and yet somehow, you still rise. Because breaking points show you something extraordinary. You don't need perfect circumstances. You don't need approval. You don't even need certainty. You just need one thing: resolve. Resolve says, I may bend, but I won't break. Resolve says, this pain won't define me. It will refine me. Resolve says, the fire inside me will always burn brighter than the storm around me. The road to Relentless. The road to Relentless is paved with breaking points. Each one is a checkpoint, not a dead end. A test, not a punishment. You will have moments that stretch you to your core, where dreams collapse and hope feels like ash. But remember, even ashes can catch fire again. You are allowed to cry, to fall, to feel lost. But never forget, even when you think you're breaking, you're building. Every scar is proof that you were tested, and you continued. That's the real definition of relentless. You bend, you bruise, you bleed, but you don't bow. Key takeaways. The breaking point isn't the end, it's the transformation. Pain doesn't destroy you. It introduces you to your deeper strength. Every I can't moment is an invitation to evolve. The strongest people aren't those who never break. They're the ones who break open and rebuild better. What feels like falling apart is often your life falling into place. Action step. Take a moment to write down one time in your life when you hit your breaking point. Then list what that experience taught you about resilience, strength, or clarity. Turn that lesson into your new foundation. Because on the road to Relentless, the cracks aren't flaws, they're entry points for light. Chapter 3. Fireproof. Every fire either consumes you or creates you. That's the truth nobody tells you when you start chasing your dreams. Everyone talks about passion, vision, and success, but few mention the heat, the burning rejections, the slow failures, the sleepless nights that test what you're really made of. To become fireproof isn't about avoiding the flames. It's about walking through them and coming out forged, not finished. This chapter is about that fire, the kind that doesn't destroy you, but reveals the steel beneath your skin. The first burn. There's a story about a young architect named Lena. She had a vision to redesign old city blocks into sustainable housing, places where the poor could live with dignity, surrounded by beauty. She worked for months on her first proposal. She poured her heart into it. Every line, every sketch, every detail told a story of hope. When she finally presented it to the city council, they dismissed her in 10 minutes. Too idealistic, too expensive, too ambitious for someone your age. Their words hit harder than any storm. She went home that night and cried, not because of rejection, but because it made her question herself. Maybe they're right. Maybe I am too much. Maybe I'm not built for this. But a few weeks later, as she walked past a crumbling block of houses, she saw a little girl drawing flowers on a cracked wall. Despite the ugliness around her, the child saw beauty. That moment reignited something inside Lena. She realized that the fire she felt wasn't failure. It was proof that she cared. And caring deeply is the first sign you're still alive. Lena started again. Smaller this time. One building, one project, one step at a time. Years later, that same city council that once laughed at her now honors her work as a national model for sustainable housing. She didn't avoid the flames. She learned to build through them. The psychology of endurance. In psychology, there's something called grit resilience. It's the ability to stay passionate and persistent in pursuit of long-term goals, even when everything goes wrong. Dr. Angela Duckworth, who coined the term grit, found that intelligence, talent, and even opportunity don't predict success as accurately as one trait: perseverance. But here's the twist. Perseverance doesn't mean blind stubbornness. It means adaptability under pressure. The fireproof mind doesn't deny pain. It learns from it. It doesn't avoid discomfort. It uses it as data. Every rejection teaches you something about your resilience. Every failure shows you what still needs to be strengthened. Every delay shapes your patience. You're not failing, you're forging. The furnace of rejection. Rejection has a sting that cuts deeper than almost anything else. It makes you feel small, unseen, unworthy. But what if rejection isn't rejection at all? What if it's redirection? Every person who ever did something extraordinary has faced rejection that would have broken most people. J.K. Rowling was rejected by 12 publishers before Harry Potter found a home. Walt Disney was fired for lacking imagination. Oprah Winfrey was told she wasn't fit for television. They all walked through fire and didn't just survive, they became the flame. If they had quit after their first, fifth, or 10th rejection, the world would have lost their light. The truth is, fireproof people don't see rejection as a verdict. They see it as a test. Because life doesn't ask, "Are you talented enough?" It asks, "Are you tough enough?" The trial by fire. There's an old blacksmith saying, "Steel becomes steel only after it meets fire." When metal is first heated, it's soft, malleable, fragile. But after being hammered and cooled again and again, it becomes unbreakable. That's what your journey is doing to you. Every trial, every failure, every heartbreak, that's life's forge. It's shaping you into someone who can withstand more, rise faster, and endure longer. It doesn't feel noble when you're in it. When your dream collapses, your business fails, or your heart breaks, all you feel is the burn. But that burn is building something inside you that ease never could: endurance. The story of the runner. There's a marathon runner named Miguel who trained for years to compete in international races. He was fast, but not a champion, not yet. One year, during a major race, he tore a muscle at the halfway mark. He could have stopped. Everyone would have understood. But he didn't. He limped across the next 13 miles. When asked later why he didn't quit, he said something unforgettable. "I didn't come this far to only run half the road. Even if I crawled, I wanted to finish." He didn't win the race, but his story went viral. Sponsors called. He became a symbol of persistence for athletes around the world. Why? Because the world doesn't remember those who run fast. It remembers those who refuse to stop. The psychology of fireproofing. Let's get practical. How do you become fireproof? Here's what mental endurance actually looks like in action. 1. Emotional regulation. Fireproof minds don't react impulsively. They respond. When pain hits, they pause, breathe, and let emotion cool before acting. 2. Reframing failure. They don't say, "I failed." They say, "I learned." Each setback becomes information, not identity. 3. Purpose anchoring. They remind themselves why they started, not when things are easy, but precisely when things are hard. 4. Incremental recovery. They know rest isn't weakness. Fireproof people take time to rebuild energy because endurance isn't constant speed. It's consistent return. 5. Faith in the long game. They trust that what's unseen is still working. Fireproof minds know the results lag behind the effort, but they keep showing up anyway. Being fireproof doesn't mean you never feel the heat. It means the flames no longer control your direction. The burn that builds character. One of the greatest illusions of modern life is comfort. We chase ease, avoid stress, and call it peace. But peace isn't the absence of struggle, it's the mastery of it. A smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. A sheltered life never made a strong soul. You learn who you are when life sets you on fire, when there's no applause, no validation, no clear answers. That's when the inner voice says, will you still move forward? Because relentlessness isn't built in victory, it's built in resistance. Ordinary fireproof heroes. You don't have to climb mountains or win championships to be fireproof. You can find heroes everywhere. In mothers who raise children while working 2 jobs, in students who fail exams but don't give up, in elders who still chase dreams at 70. I once met a man named Rashid, a mechanic who lost his shop in a fire. He lost everything: tools, savings, even his hope for a while. But within a month, he was back, fixing bikes on the roadside, saving a little every day. When I asked him how he found the courage, he smiled and said, "The fire took my shop, not my hands." That's fireproof. That's the mindset of someone who refuses to be defined by loss. When the fire comes for you, there will be days when life feels like too much, when rejections pile up, when people walk away, when your confidence flickers. In those moments, remember this: every burn is building resistance. Every failure is upgrading your emotional armor. Every heartbreak is sharpening your capacity for empathy. The goal isn't to avoid pain. The goal is to outgrow it. Because once you've walked through enough flames, the fire loses its power to scare you. That's when you become dangerous, not to others, but to doubt itself. Fireproof doesn't mean untouched. Let's be clear, being fireproof doesn't mean being numb. It doesn't mean pretending everything's fine. It means learning to feel deeply without falling apart. You still cry. You still doubt. You still stumble. But you no longer break in the same places. You've built calluses, not over your heart, but within your spirit. And that quiet strength, the kind that doesn't shout, doesn't need validation, that's what makes you unstoppable. The fireproof mindset. Here's what a fireproof mindset sounds like. I am not my failures. Pain is a signal, not a sentence. Every no brings me closer to my yes. I can withstand the heat because I am the fire. Say it enough times, and it becomes your belief system. And belief is the fuel of resilience. Key takeaways. You don't become strong by avoiding fire. You become strong by learning to walk through it. Rejection isn't a dead end. It's a redirection toward your real path. Endurance is emotional control, not emotional suppression. The most relentless people aren't fearless, they're fireproof. The burn you feel now is building the armor you'll need later. Action step. This week, list 3 moments in your life when rejection or failure burned you. Then, beside each one, write what it taught you. You'll start to see something incredible. The same flames that hurt you also hardened you into someone wiser, calmer, and infinitely stronger. Because in the end, the fire doesn't define you. It reveals you. Chapter 4. The grind nobody sees. Every success story you've ever admired has a secret chapter, one written in silence, sweat, and unseen hours. The world sees the victory speech, not the sleepless nights. It claps for the gold medal, not the blood that stained the training floor. It reposts the highlight, but never the heartbreak. That's the grind nobody sees. It's the 4 a.m. alarm that no one claps for. The lonely desk lit by the cold glow of a laptop. The nights when your vision feels more like a burden than a blessing. The moments when your inner voice whispers, "Why am I even doing this?" And you answer only with effort. Because this is the stage where relentless people are built. Not in the spotlight, but in the dark. The loneliness of the climb. Every dreamer goes through a season when nobody believes. Sometimes, not even you. You'll have nights when your phone stays silent. No one checking in. No one understanding the weight you're carrying. The grind strips away comfort and applause, forcing you to face what's real. That's where resilience is forged, not when you're supported, but when you're alone and you choose to keep going anyway. Ask any great athlete, artist, or entrepreneur. The hardest part isn't the work itself. It's doing it when no one notices. When Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team, he didn't post a rant. He went to the gym every morning before sunrise. He worked in silence until the echo of the ball on the hardwood floor became his companion. Years later, people called him the GOAT, but they never saw the teenage boy shooting free throws in an empty gym, promising himself he'd never be overlooked again. That's the grind nobody sees, the inner fire that burns when the world is cold. The discipline behind the dream. Motivation will get you started. Discipline keeps you going when motivation dies. The world romanticizes success, the stage, the fame, the freedom, but discipline is the unglamorous truth behind it all. It's repetition. It's structure. It's choosing progress over comfort every single day. The great violinist Itzhak Perlman once said, "If I don't practice one day, I notice. If I don't practice 2 days, my critics notice. If I don't practice 3 days, the audience notices." The grind is a contract you sign with yourself. Invisible ink written in effort and integrity. Some people dream of success. The relentless prepare for it. While others scroll, they study. While others complain, they create. While others sleep, they sacrifice. Discipline isn't glamorous, it's gritty. It's showing up tired, uninspired, and uncertain, but doing it anyway. Because success doesn't ask how you feel. It only remembers how you worked. The invisible work. Behind every best-selling author are drafts that never saw daylight. Behind every champion are mornings that began in pain. Behind every overnight success are 10 invisible years. Consider J.K. Rowling. She was a single mother, broke, rejected 12 times before Harry Potter was accepted. When the book finally took off, the world thought she was an overnight phenomenon. But her overnight was years of unseen struggle, of writing in cafes between caring for her child, hoping someone, somewhere, would believe. That's the part no one claps for. The drafts, the doubts, the days you almost give up. But that's the price of mastery. The grind is where the miracle hides. Because while others rest, you're refining your craft. While others wait for opportunity, you're building it. The invisible work becomes your unfair advantage. Because the day the spotlight finds you, you'll already be ready, battle-tested, fireproofed, relentless. The unseen pain of progress. Growth often looks like loss before it looks like gain. You'll lose friends who don't understand your pace. You'll lose nights of rest chasing something only your heart can see. You'll lose comfort, stability, maybe even people who once called you crazy. But if you can handle the pain of being misunderstood, you'll earn the peace of being unstoppable. In the dark corners of sacrifice, you'll discover something sacred, yourself. Not the version molded by others' expectations, but the one forged by your own fire. The grind isn't glamorous because it's meant to humble you before it honors you. It strips away ego, entitlement, and excuses, until all that's left is grit. Every push-up done in the dark, every hour studied in silence, every rejection turned into redirection. Those are the invisible bricks of greatness. They're not wasted. They're working within you. Stories from the shadows. When Sylvester Stallone wrote Rocky, he was broke, living with his dog, rejected over 1,000 times. He refused to sell the script unless he could play the lead role, because he believed he was Rocky. He slept in bus stations before Hollywood finally called. Today, Rocky is a symbol of persistence, but the world forgets that it began with a man who had nothing but a dream and the will to fight for it. Or take Serena Williams. Before the trophies and fame, she trained on cracked courts in Compton, under the sun, with people laughing at her father's belief that his daughters would change tennis forever. Years later, when she lifted her 23rd Grand Slam trophy, she said, "I've had more losses than wins, but I never lost faith in the work." That's the grind nobody sees, the faith that keeps you moving when the world only gives you reasons to stop. The art of consistency. Consistency isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. It's the decision to keep going, even when the mood is gone. You don't need to be the fastest, smartest, or most talented. You just need to be the one who doesn't stop. Every day you show up is a deposit into your destiny. Some days will feel like you're running through mud. Some will feel effortless. But all of it counts. The artist who paints daily eventually creates a masterpiece. The athlete who trains daily eventually breaks a record. The person who grows daily eventually transforms their entire life. Progress doesn't announce itself, it accumulates silently. Then, one day, people call you lucky, but you know luck is just consistency wearing a disguise. Becoming the relentless one. There will come a moment in every journey when your dream whispers, "Are you still in?" And your answer will not be in words, it'll be in work. You'll keep pushing when results don't show. You'll stay disciplined when motivation fades. You'll grind when no one's watching. Because you understand now. This is what separates the relentless from the rest. The ones who make it aren't the ones who had it easy. They're the ones who didn't quit in the quiet. Key takeaways. 1. The grind nobody sees builds the strength everybody wants. 2. Success is born in the dark, long before it shines in the light. 3. Discipline is the bridge between dreams and results. 4. The unseen work becomes your hidden power. 5. Consistency beats talent when talent stops showing up. Action step/challenge for the reader. This week, commit to your invisible hours. Pick one goal and give it silent effort. No posts, no praise, no announcement. Just work. Track it. Own it. And let the results speak when the time is right. Remember, you're not behind. You're just in the part of the story nobody sees yet. Chapter 5. Fear as Fuel. There comes a moment in every dreamer's journey when fear shows up, not as a monster in the dark, but as a quiet voice that says, "What if you fail?" It's not loud. It's not violent. It's subtle, like the whisper of wind before a storm. And yet, that whisper has stopped armies of dreamers from ever taking their first step. But what if, instead of being your enemy, fear was the very thing meant to awaken your greatness? What if it was never meant to stop you, but shape you? That's where this chapter begins, not with the absence of fear, but with the art of turning fear into fuel. The night before the leap, Ethan sat in his car outside the gym he was about to open. The neon sign above the door flickered uncertainly, just like his heart. He had spent every cent of his savings, taken out a loan he could barely afford, and promised his family that this dream, would change their lives. But now, as he sat staring at the building, fear crept in like smoke through a crack. What if nobody comes? What if I'm not ready? What if I lose everything? He gripped the steering wheel, breathing hard. Fear told him he wasn't built for this, that he should have stayed at his old job, clocking in, clocking out, safe but suffocating. Then he remembered something his old boxing coach used to say. Courage isn't when the fear disappears. Courage is when you swing while you're scared. So Ethan got out of the car, unlocked the door, flipped the light switch, and whispered, "Let's begin." That moment, trembling hands, racing pulse, heart full of uncertainty, that was courage. Because courage is never born from comfort. It's born from confrontation. The science of fear, and why it's lying to you. Your brain has one job, to keep you alive. Not happy, not fulfilled, just alive. That means every time you're about to do something new, bold, or uncertain, your brain sounds the alarm. Danger. Don't do it. It's the same primitive wiring that once saved us from predators, now triggered by a presentation, a dream, a leap of faith. You're not broken for feeling fear. You're wired to feel it. But here's the twist. Fear and excitement are almost identical in the body. Your heart races. Your palms sweat. Your breathing changes. The only difference? The story you tell yourself. When you call it fear, it paralyzes you. When you call it excitement, it powers you. That's why skydivers grin at the edge of the plane. Why performers smile before the curtain rises. Why founders risk everything for an idea. They've learned to rename the feeling. It's not fear. It's fuel. The fire of fear. Stories from the relentless. 1. Nelson Mandela. Fear in a prison cell. When Nelson Mandela sat in his small prison cell on Robben Island, he once confessed, "I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it." He was terrified, not just for himself, but for a nation divided by hate. Every day, he faced uncertainty, isolation, and pain. But he chose to see fear not as a cage, but as a teacher. Fear taught him patience. Fear taught him focus. Fear taught him that the mind, not the chains, defines a man's freedom. When he walked free 27 years later, his calm wasn't the absence of fear. It was mastery over it. 2. The girl who dared to speak. In a small classroom in Pakistan, a young girl once refused to be silenced. Malala Yousafzai's voice trembled, but her purpose burned brighter than her fear. When the world told her to stop, that education wasn't meant for girls like her, she spoke louder. Fear tried to end her story. Instead, it amplified it. The bullet meant to silence her only made her message immortal. 3. The mother who started over. Not all heroes are famous. Some are single mothers working 2 jobs, going to night school, starting over when life crumbles. Amira was one of them. After her husband left, she had 2 kids, no savings, and a small dream: to open a home bakery. Everyone told her it was impossible. But one night, she whispered to herself, "Fear won't feed my children. Action will." She began baking from her tiny kitchen, posting pictures online. At first, nobody noticed. Then one person ordered. Then 10. 2 years later, her cakes were the most sought after in her city. She wasn't fearless. She was relentless. Fear is not the wall, it's the door. Most people see fear as a stop sign. The relentless see it as a signal. Fear shows you where your growth lives. Every time you feel it, it's a compass pointing toward the next version of you. Fear before the interview means you care. Fear before the speech means your message matters. Fear before the dream means it's worth the risk. When you start to chase only what feels safe, your life shrinks. When you chase what feels scary, your life expands. The greatest lives are built on the edge of fear, not in the center of comfort. The psychology of fear, how to flip it. Here's how relentless people use fear differently. 1. They expect it. They don't wait for it to disappear, they plan for it. They know every new chapter brings new fear. 2. They label it correctly. They don't say, "I'm scared." They say, "I'm excited. I'm ready. This matters." 3. They channel it into action. Instead of freezing, they move, even if imperfectly. Because motion kills fear faster than motivation ever will. 4. They focus on the mission, not the mirror. Fear grows when you obsess about yourself. It shrinks when you focus on your purpose. Fear can't survive in the presence of purpose. When fear becomes a friend. One evening, a marathon runner named Tessa told her coach, "I'm scared I can't finish." Her coach smiled. "Good. That means you're chasing something worthy of your soul." Tessa ran that marathon. She didn't win, but every step she took was a war against the voice that said she couldn't. And somewhere between mile 18 and mile 26, she realized the fear wasn't in her legs. It was in her limits. That's what fear does. It tests how much you want it. And when you rise above it once, you're never the same. Turning fear into your engine. When you stop trying to eliminate fear and start listening to it, everything changes. Fear isn't saying, "Stop." It's saying, "Pay attention." It's alerting you that something important is at stake. It's energy waiting to be redirected. The moment you act despite it, it transforms. Just like fire, fear can burn your dreams down or forge your strength. It depends on how you hold it. Key takeaways. Fear is not your enemy, it's your compass. The body feels fear and excitement the same way. Your mindset defines the meaning. Greatness begins where fear meets action. Purpose is the antidote to paralysis. The goal isn't to kill fear, it's to convert it into courage. Action step, your fear map. Tonight, write down 3 things that scare you right now: dreams, conversations, changes, or risks. Then next to each, write, what would happen if I did it anyway? What's the worst that could happen? What's the best that could happen? Then circle one, just one, and take one step toward it in the next 24 hours. That's how relentless people are built. One act of courage at a time. Chapter 6. The Long Nights of Becoming. There's a silence that only dreamers know. The kind that comes after the noise fades, when the world has gone to sleep, but your heart refuses to. It's 2:47 a.m. Everyone else is resting. You're still building, still fighting, still holding on to a vision that no one else can see. The long nights, they're not glamorous. They don't show up in highlight reels. No audience, no applause, just you and the weight of your own becoming. This is the chapter most people skip, the one between starting and success. The messy middle, the lonely climb, the nights that don't end with victory, only progress. The quiet war. Becoming relentless isn't about one big moment. It's about thousands of small ones. The battles no one witnesses, the doubts you silence in the dark, the choices that shape your soul when no one's watching. It's the night you rewrite the plan instead of giving up. The night you open your laptop after everyone's asleep. The night you look at your reflection and whisper, "You're not there yet, but you're closer than you were." That's what it means to endure the long nights of becoming. They don't test your skill, they test your stamina. Because greatness doesn't demand perfection. It demands persistence. The desert between who you are and who you're becoming. There's always a desert between the dream and its realization. A space where everything feels dry, empty, endless. No results. No recognition. No signs that it's working. You start to wonder if you misheard the calling. If maybe you're chasing a mirage. But every soul destined for something greater must walk through that silence. Because the desert is where illusions die and identity is rebuilt. When everything else fades, motivation, applause, certainty, what's left is you. Raw, exposed, unpolished, real. It's in that desert that you either break or become unbreakable. The loneliness nobody warns you about. Nobody tells you that chasing purpose is lonely. That when you choose growth, you'll outgrow people. That when you choose to climb, some will call you obsessed. You'll lose invitations. You'll lose approval. You'll lose the comfort of belonging, because becoming demands solitude. And in those long nights, you'll question everything. Was it worth it? Why does it have to hurt this much? Why does the dream I love also feel like the thing that's breaking me? But here's the truth. Loneliness isn't punishment. It's preparation. It's the silence before your voice finds its power. The distance before your steps find their rhythm. The sculptor's midnight. Somewhere in Italy, centuries ago, a young sculptor worked alone in the dark. He carved marble until his hands bled. He slept beside his unfinished masterpiece. People called him obsessive. He called it devotion. Years later, the world would call him Michelangelo. But back then, he was just another man in the long nights of becoming, carving through doubt, fear, and fatigue until beauty emerged. That's the truth no one teaches you. Before your name echoes in the world, it must first echo in your own heart, through repetition, failure, and silence. The sound of the clock and the voice in your head. Tick, tock. That's the sound of time reminding you what's at stake. When you're building your dream, the hours move differently. Minutes stretch like miles. Days blend into nights. The only thing louder than the ticking clock is the voice inside your mind, sometimes whispering, sometimes screaming. You're behind. You're not good enough. You'll never make it. But the relentless learn to answer back. Maybe I'm behind, but I'm still moving. Maybe I'm not good enough yet, but I'm learning. Maybe I'll fail, but I'll rise again. That's what separates the relentless from the rest. They argue with their fear until they win the debate. The turning point no one sees. Most people think transformation happens in a single breakthrough, a moment of revelation or luck. But in truth, becoming is slow. It happens in invisible increments. It's the extra rep when your muscles scream. It's the paragraph you rewrite 100 times. It's showing up on days when your soul is heavy. No fireworks. No audience. Just a quiet decision repeated until it rewires your destiny. Every masterpiece was once a draft. Every champion was once a beginner who refused to stop training. Every legend was once a dreamer alone in the dark, still believing. The weight of almost. Sometimes, the hardest nights are the ones where you're almost there. The doors are almost opening. The reward is almost visible. That's when most people quit, 1 inch from the finish line. But the relentless know. Almost is a test. It's the universe asking, do you still want it, even if it costs more than you thought? And when you whisper yes, even through exhaustion, doubt, and tears, something shifts. You don't just get stronger. You become unchainable. The quiet victories. Not all victories roar. Some whisper. Some hide in the small moments no one claps for. Finishing a chapter you almost abandoned. Showing up at the gym after a breakdown. Saying no to distraction. Saying yes to discipline. Those are the real milestones of becoming. Not the trophies, the transformations. Not the recognition, the resilience. Because in the long nights, there's no spotlight. Only the light inside you. The night teaches you what the day can't. The night strips away everything. Noise, validation, distraction, until only truth remains. And in that silence, you meet the version of you that can't be faked. The one who doesn't care about followers or likes. The one who's tired but still willing. The one who's broken but still building. That's who the relentless are made of. Not confidence, not comfort, but the courage to keep breathing through the dark until dawn. Because every sunrise means one thing. You made it through one more night. You're still in the fight. You're still becoming. The promise hidden in the pain. Here's what nobody tells you. The long nights end. Not suddenly. Not dramatically. But slowly, beautifully. One morning, you'll wake up, and the thing that used to terrify you will feel natural. The work that used to drain you will feel sacred. The mountain that once looked impossible will feel like home. You won't even realize it happened, because transformation is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It simply arrives. And when it does, you'll look back on those sleepless nights, those aching doubts, and you'll whisper, "That's where I found myself." Key lessons from the long nights. 1. Becoming takes longer than you think, and that's okay. You're not behind. You're in progress. 2. Silence is not absence. Just because it's quiet doesn't mean nothing's happening. Growth roots in the dark. 3. Loneliness is sacred. It's not a void, it's a forge. 4. Consistency beats brilliance. The relentless win not because they shine, but because they stay. 5. The night ends. Always. Every period of darkness has a dawn waiting on the other side. Action step, the 3 a.m. promise. Before you sleep tonight, make yourself a promise that no matter how long it takes, no matter how tired you get, you will not quit in the dark. Write it down. I am not waiting for light to believe again. I'll believe until it returns. Tape it where you'll see it in the morning. Because one day, that note will remind you. You didn't just survive the long nights. You became through them. Chapter 7. Blood, Sweat, and Self-Belief. There comes a point in every journey where the applause fades, the noise dies down, and all that's left is you, standing in front of a mirror that asks one brutal question. Do you still believe in you? Because there's a kind of fight that doesn't happen under lights or in arenas. It happens in silence, in the space between your last failure and your next breath. That's where self-belief is forged. Not through comfort, not through compliments, but through blood, sweat, and doubt. The night the dream almost died. It was 2:47 a.m. when Elijah threw his sketchbook across the room. He'd been trying for years to build his own streetwear brand, a dream born from the cracked pavements of his neighborhood, where kids wore ambition like armor. But now his latest investor had backed out, his savings were gone, and his mother's words echoed in his head. Maybe it's time to get a real job. He looked around his small apartment, the unfinished designs taped to the wall, the boxes of unsold shirts stacked like silent judges. His chest burned with frustration. He had given everything. Every late night, every dollar, every ounce of belief he had left. He fell to his knees and whispered, "Maybe they're right." But somewhere deep inside, another voice, smaller but sharper, spoke up. Or maybe they gave up too early. He picked up that sketchbook, taped the torn pages back together, and designed again, through exhaustion, through fear, through tears. That night, he didn't build a brand. He built belief. Because sometimes, the real victory is not what you create. It's refusing to quit when creation seems pointless. The battle within. You can't buy self-belief. You can't borrow it. You can only build it, layer by layer, through struggle and survival. Most people think belief comes first, that confident people achieve because they believe. But the truth is reversed. Belief is born in battle. You earn it when you show up on days you don't want to. When your hands are blistered, your back is sore, and no one is watching. It's in those invisible moments, when your mind whispers, "You can't do this," and you whisper back, "Watch me." That's blood. That's sweat. That's self-belief. The loneliness of the climb. There's something isolating about chasing something bigger than yourself. People will celebrate your dream at first. They'll cheer for the idea of it. But when it drags on, when results don't come fast enough, the crowd thins out. That's when loneliness starts to creep in. Ask any athlete, any artist, any founder, any parent fighting to build a better life. The hardest part isn't the competition. It's the silence that follows when everyone else goes home and you're still grinding. There's a scene few ever see. The writer rewriting the same paragraph 40 times. The athlete running sprints in the dark after the field lights go off. The musician rehearsing alone while their friends are out celebrating. Those are the invisible hours that define greatness. Because belief doesn't bloom in crowds, it grows in caves. The doubt that builds you. At first, doubt feels like poison. It eats away at your energy, your clarity, your joy. But if you learn how to sit with it, How to listen. Doubt becomes a teacher. Serena Williams once said, "Every time I doubt myself, I remind myself I've done this before." She didn't eliminate doubt. She redirected it. That's what separates the relentless from the rest. They don't wait for confidence to arrive. They act in the presence of doubt. Because courage isn't the absence of fear, it's belief despite it. Blood, the cost. Every dream asks for a sacrifice. Sometimes it's money. Sometimes it's comfort. Often, it's you. The long nights, the mental fatigue, the relationships that drift because they can't understand why you're obsessed. But here's the truth most won't tell you. Greatness will ask you to bleed for it. And those who make peace with that, who understand that pain is not punishment but payment, become unstoppable. Take Thomas Edison. He failed over 1,000 times trying to invent the light bulb. When asked how it felt to fail that much, he replied, "I didn't fail 1,000 times. The light bulb was an invention with 1,000 steps." That's not arrogance. That's blood-earned belief. He didn't just discover light. He discovered himself through failure. Sweat, the proof. You can tell who truly believes in themselves not by what they say, but by how they work. Self-belief isn't loud. It's not motivational quotes or morning affirmations. It's repetition. It's showing up again. It's the quiet discipline of someone who knows their potential is real, even when no one else sees it. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. Most people remember the championships. Few remember the hours he spent in the gym when everyone else went home, drenched in sweat, driven by belief that one day he'd prove himself. He didn't need validation. He needed the ball in his hands and a reason to fight. That's sweat, and sweat never lies. Self-belief, the flame. If pain is the spark and sweat is the fuel, then belief is the flame. It's the invisible power that keeps you moving when logic says stop. It's waking up after failure and saying, "I'm not done yet." It's refusing to let the world write your story before you've finished the chapter. The truth? You can't build an unshakable life until you've been shaken. You can't know how strong your wings are until you've fallen. And you can't truly believe in yourself until the world has doubted you, loudly. That's when you learn that belief is rebellion. A quiet, powerful defiance against everything that says you can't. Story: the runner who refused to stop. There was a marathon runner named Leah who tore a ligament 2 miles from the finish line. She fell hard. Medics ran to her, urging her to stop. The cameras zoomed in, expecting a dramatic withdrawal. But she pushed them away. Crawling, limping, one step at a time, she kept going. Every inch hurt. Every breath burned. When she finally crossed the finish line, the crowd exploded, not because she won, but because she didn't quit. Afterward, someone asked her why. She smiled through tears and said, "Because I told myself I would finish. And I believe in keeping promises to myself." That's belief. Not the kind that wins trophies, the kind that builds truth inside you. Reflection. At some point, every dreamer hits the wall, the moment where belief feels foolish. But remember this, the wall isn't there to stop you. It's there to test who really wants it. You may not be the fastest. You may not be the strongest. But if you are the one who refuses to stop, who bleeds, sweats, and still believes, then you're already ahead. Because life doesn't reward the most talented. It rewards the most relentless. Key takeaways. Self-belief is built, not borrowed, forged in pain, repetition, and persistence. Doubt isn't a signal to quit. It's an invitation to dig deeper. Pain is not punishment. It's the price of progress. Sweat is proof. Consistency speaks louder than confidence. The most powerful belief is not, "I will succeed," but "I will not quit." Action step/challenge. This week, write down one area of your life where you've been doubting yourself. Then, for the next 7 days, act anyway. Show up even when belief feels low. Do the work even when motivation fades. At the end of those 7 days, look back, not at what you achieved, but at what you proved to yourself. That's the moment you'll realize you are built of blood, sweat, and self-belief. Chapter 8. The Mirror and the Mountain. There are 2 kinds of mountains in life, the ones you climb and the ones you carry. The first stands tall before you, demanding your sweat, your stamina, your courage. The second lives deep within, built from self-doubt, fear, comparison, and the silent wars no one sees. Most people spend their lives trying to conquer the mountain in front of them. The job, the dream, the reputation, the success. But the relentless, they learn something different. They realize that before you can rise to any summit, you must conquer the one inside. Because the truth is, the mirror is the first mountain you'll ever climb. The enemy in the reflection. It starts quietly. You wake up one morning, look in the mirror, and see not your face, but your failures. The goals you didn't reach. The promises you broke to yourself. The dreams that feel too far gone. That reflection doesn't lie, but it also doesn't tell the whole truth. It doesn't show the nights you stayed up trying. It doesn't show the courage it took to start again. It doesn't show the fire still flickering beneath your scars. The mirror reflects what you see. The mountain reveals who you are. And between those two, most people get stuck. They see their flaws so clearly that they stop climbing. They believe their fears more than their faith. They choose to live at the base of the mountain because it feels safer than failing again halfway up. But here's the secret every relentless soul knows. The climb is not about reaching the top. It's about who you become on the way up. The inner demons we hide from. Every person you admire, every legend, leader, dreamer, fought wars in the mirror long before the world ever saw their light. Think about Nelson Mandela. He spent 27 years in a cell smaller than most bedrooms. But that wasn't his real prison. His real battle was against anger, bitterness, and the temptation to believe he was broken beyond repair. Every morning in that cell, he faced himself and chose forgiveness over fury. That's what made him unstoppable when he finally walked free. Or Oprah Winfrey, who was told again and again that she didn't belong in television, that she was too emotional, too different, not right for the screen. But every time she looked in the mirror, she whispered the opposite. You are enough. You are meant for more. That inner belief became the foundation of an empire. The relentless don't avoid their demons, they study them. They sit in front of their mirror until the reflection no longer scares them. They stare down their insecurities until fear starts to blink first. Because what you refuse to face will always control you. And what you face fully loses its power over you. The mountain within. Climbing your inner mountain isn't about success. It's about self-mastery. It's about understanding that discipline, confidence, and peace don't come from outside validation. They're built one decision at a time. Every time you say, I'll try again, you take one step up that inner slope. Every time you silence the voice that says, you can't, you gain a little more altitude. Every time you forgive yourself instead of tearing yourself down, the air gets clearer, the view gets wider, and the summit comes closer. There's a point in everyone's journey where you realize the mountain isn't against you. It's there to mold you. The steep climbs make your spirit stronger. The storms sharpen your focus. The falls teach you humility. The thin air at the top reminds you to breathe gratitude. You don't climb mountains to escape life. You climb them to remember how alive you are. The story of Amina, the mountain inside. Amina was a young architect from Lahore who spent years designing beautiful buildings for other people, while quietly destroying herself inside. Every drawing she made was perfect, every project praised, yet she never felt enough. Her father once told her, dream small, so you never get disappointed. And so, every time she tried to dream big, she heard his voice again, echoing in her head like a curse. Then one day, she was assigned a solo project, a chance to design a landmark school in her city. But fear hit harder than excitement. She almost declined the offer. That night, she sat in front of the mirror, tired, angry, crying. She whispered, why do I always sabotage my own chances? And then something inside her snapped. She realized that for years, she wasn't fighting her father's words. She was believing them. The mountain wasn't outside. It was her reflection, her inherited fears, her learned smallness. So she made a promise. She would build the school and herself from the ground up. Every day she worked, terrified but determined. She poured her heart into that project. And when it was finally unveiled, the entire city celebrated. Her father, who once told her to dream small, stood there with tears in his eyes. The building was beautiful, but the real masterpiece was her transformation. That's the truth about relentless people. They build more than success. They build themselves, brick by brick, belief by belief. Facing the mirror daily. Your mirror is your teacher. Every morning, it asks, will you lead your mind today, or will your mind lead you? It's not about liking everything you see, it's about owning it. The scars, the flaws, the fatigue, they are not signs of weakness. They are proof you've lived, fought, and grown. When you stare long enough, you'll start seeing not what's wrong, but what's possible. So don't rush away from your reflection. Stand there. Study it. Speak life into it. Because when the inner mountain is conquered, no outer one stands a chance. The mirror and the mountain within history. Think about Thomas Edison. Before he invented the light bulb, he failed over 1,000 times. When reporters asked how it felt to fail that much, he said, "I didn't fail 1,000 times. I discovered 1,000 ways that didn't work." That's not science. That's psychology. That's a man who refused to let his reflection define him by failure. He redefined it as feedback. Or Malala Yousafzai, who was told that a girl's voice couldn't change the world. She faced her mountain, even when it came for her life. She didn't let fear silence her. She rose from the rubble and became the voice of millions. Relentless people don't deny fear, they redirect it. They don't destroy doubt, they dance with it. They don't wait for the mirror to smile back, they smile first. That's how you climb the invisible mountain, by mastering the reflection, becoming your own mountain. You've spent years doubting yourself, comparing, shrinking, hesitating. But maybe that was the plan all along. Maybe every storm, every scar, every failure was building not an obstacle, but your foundation. You are both the climber and the cliff, both the storm and the shelter, both the dreamer and the dream. And when you finally realize that, you stop chasing strength and start being it. Because the relentless don't climb mountains to prove their worth. They climb to meet the version of themselves that's been waiting at the top. Key takeaways. The toughest mountain you'll ever climb is the one within. Your fears, self-doubt, and limiting beliefs. Your reflection is not your enemy. It's your training ground. Every climb, fall, and scar builds your inner resilience. Facing yourself honestly is the first step toward real power. You don't need to become fearless, only faithful to the climb. Action step. Tomorrow morning, stand in front of your mirror for 1 full minute. No phones, no noise, no distractions. Look at yourself and say out loud, "I am still climbing. I am still becoming." Then start your day, not as who you were, but as who you're building. Chapter 9. Rising from the Rubble. There comes a point when the dream you built burns to the ground. When the life you imagined collapses under its own weight. When every plan, every hope, every ounce of control you thought you had, slips through your hands like sand. And there you stand, surrounded by the wreckage. Your heart heavy with what was lost, your spirit whispering, "Maybe this is it." But it's not. Because sometimes life doesn't destroy you to punish you. It breaks you to rebuild you stronger. Sometimes the fall isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of your becoming. This is what it means to rise from the rubble. The silence after collapse. When the applause fades. When the lights go out. When the people who said they'd stay, don't. You're left with silence. A silence so loud it drowns everything else. But inside that silence, something sacred happens. You begin to hear your true voice again. The one that was buried under noise, expectation, and pride. You start realizing, maybe this fall wasn't failure. Maybe it was freedom. Because until you've lost everything fake, you'll never discover what's real. The story of Steve Jobs, the fall of a visionary. In 1985, Steve Jobs was fired from his own company. Think about that for a second, being thrown out of the empire you created. Apple was his baby, his identity, his proof that he mattered. When the board removed him, he said later, "It was devastating. I felt like the world had rejected me." For months, he drifted, broken, lost, angry. But something unexpected happened in that wilderness. He began creating again, not for approval, but for the love of creating. He started Next. He helped birth Pixar. He rediscovered the joy of building with purity and purpose. When Apple eventually bought Next and brought him back, he didn't just return as the old Steve Jobs. He came back refined by failure, rebuilt by humility, reborn with clarity. And from that rebirth came the iMac, the iPod, the iPhone, the revolution that changed the world. The collapse had purified him. It stripped away ego and left only essence. That's what the rubble does. It reduces you to what's real. The hidden grace in breaking. We live in a world that glorifies resilience, but hides the process that builds it. No one posts about the nights they cried in the dark, or the months where nothing made sense. But that's where the alchemy happens. True strength isn't built in your victories. It's forged in your ruins. When the life you knew falls apart, The version of you that emerges from the dust is someone you've never met before. The one who has nothing left to prove. The one who knows how to stand alone. The one who understands that losing everything is sometimes how you find yourself. J.K. Rowling, the woman who wrote From Rock Bottom. Before Harry Potter became a global phenomenon, J.K. Rowling was a single mother, broke, unemployed, and living off welfare. She'd lost her mother. Her marriage had ended. She described herself then as the biggest failure I knew. But failure became her foundation. She said, "Rock bottom became the solid foundation on which I rebuilt my life." Every night, while her baby slept beside her, she wrote, in cafes, on scraps of paper, pouring her pain into a world of magic and meaning. No publisher wanted it. She was rejected 12 times. But she kept showing up, word after word, belief after belief. When her book finally found a home, it didn't just change her life. It changed millions. Because the story she wrote wasn't just about a boy who survived. It was about a woman who did too. That's the secret most people never tell you. You don't rise when you get lucky. You rise when you keep creating in the dark, before the world believes in your light. The man in the mirror, unknown but unbreakable. Not all comebacks make headlines. Some happen quietly, in small apartments, in broken hearts, in everyday lives no one writes about. Take the story of Rehan, a mechanic from Karachi. He ran a small workshop for 15 years. Then one night, a fire burned it down, everything gone. No savings, no insurance, no backup plan. For weeks, he sat in silence, staring at the ashes of his life's work. But one morning, he got up before dawn, picked up a hammer from the ruins, and started rebuilding, piece by piece. He borrowed tools, called old clients, offered discounts. Within a year, he had a new garage, stronger, cleaner, more efficient. When asked how he did it, he smiled and said, "Because fire only burns what's weak. What's strong always survives." That's what rising from the rubble really means, not waiting for rescue, but rebuilding from within. The psychology of rebuilding. When you lose something, a dream, a relationship, a version of yourself, your mind enters a battlefield. You grieve, you bargain, you question everything. But somewhere inside that chaos, a voice whispers, "Not yet. There's still more in you." That whisper is resilience being born. It's the echo of your future self calling you forward. Psychologists call it post-traumatic growth, the phenomenon where people don't just recover from adversity, they evolve through it. They find deeper meaning, stronger purpose, higher empathy. They stop living for applause and start living for authentic peace. That's the power of the rubble. It's the soil where your next chapter takes root. The fire that refines. When gold is purified, it's heated until every impurity rises to the surface. When steel is tempered, it's struck and cooled again and again. And when a soul is strengthened, it's shattered, humbled, and reborn. That's the law of resilience. What burns you can also build you, if you refuse to stay buried. The relentless don't avoid the fire. They walk through it and emerge forged. Every scar tells a story of something that tried to destroy you and failed. Every bruise is proof that you still chose to get back up. You can lose everything, your job, your love, your comfort, but as long as you don't lose your fight, you'll always rebuild. Reconstruction, brick by brick. Rising from rubble is slow. It's not glamorous. It's not loud. It's one breath, one step, one choice at a time. Some days, you'll only have enough strength to crawl. Other days, you'll surprise yourself with how far you can run. What matters is this. You don't need to rebuild the same life you lost. You're allowed to build something better, truer, freer. Because collapse doesn't erase your story. It simply edits it, giving you a chance to write a stronger chapter. From the ashes of the world. History itself is a monument to rising from the rubble. After World War II, cities like Hiroshima and Berlin were left in dust. But out of that destruction came renewal, not just in infrastructure, but in philosophy. People vowed never to repeat the same mistakes. The ruins became reminders, not of weakness, but of human endurance. Pain became perspective. Loss became legacy. That's what humanity does. We rise. Again, and again, and again. The moment you rise, you'll know the moment it happens. Not when people cheer, not when things go back to normal, but in that quiet second when you realize you're no longer afraid of the fall, because you've already survived worse. You've already learned that even in ruins, you still have roots. That's when you become unstoppable. Not because you're invincible, but because you're unbreakable. Lessons from the rubble. 1. Collapse doesn't destroy you, it reveals you. It shows you what's real, what matters, and who you truly are. 2. Pain is a sculptor. It carves away what's false so the masterpiece can emerge. 3. Every loss carries a lesson. The question is, will you learn it, or will you live it again? 4. Don't rebuild to impress, rebuild to express. Create a life that feels true, not just one that looks successful. 5. Rising isn't a moment, it's a movement. A daily decision to keep climbing, even when the mountain looks impossible. The call to rise. So if you're standing in your own ruins right now, don't hide your face. Look around, feel the dust on your skin, and whisper to yourself, this is not where my story ends. Because it never is. The relentless don't pray for an easy rebuild. They thank the rubble for revealing their foundation. They understand that sometimes, what feels like destruction is actually divine direction. Your ashes are not your ending. They're your beginning. And when you rise this time, you won't just rebuild what you lost. You'll rebuild who you are. Key takeaways. Every collapse carries the seed of a comeback. Rock bottom isn't failure. It's the foundation of transformation. True resilience isn't about never falling. It's about learning how to rise better each time. The rubble isn't a grave. It's the birthplace of reinvention. Chapter 10. The Relentless Mindset. There's a moment every fighter faces. When your body is drained. When your mind screams, enough. When the crowd has gone home, the lights have dimmed, and you're left alone with your heartbeat and your doubt. That moment, that quiet, breaking moment, is where the relentless are born. Because it's easy to be passionate when things are new. It's easy to be consistent when the results come quickly. But relentless people, they show up long after the motivation fades. They train when no one's watching. They push when no one's clapping. They bleed, sweat, fall, and still rise. Because they're not fueled by comfort or applause. They're fueled by something far deeper. Purpose. The anatomy of the relentless. You can't teach relentlessness in a classroom. You can't fake it on social media. You can't wear it like a title. It's not born from talent. It's born from threshold. That line between what most people accept and what you refuse to settle for. The relentless don't ask, can I? They ask, how far can I go before I break? And can I go further? They treat exhaustion like a test, pain like a compass, and doubt like a dare. They understand what average minds never grasp. Discomfort is the currency of greatness. Every champion you've ever admired has lived this truth, that mastery demands a price most people aren't willing to pay. Michael Jordan and the unseen hours. When Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team, most people thought his story ended there. But he turned rejection into ritual. He practiced every single day, long after everyone else left the gym. Years later, after winning championships, he said something that captures the relentless spirit perfectly. I've failed over and over and over again in my life. And that is why I succeed. It wasn't luck. It wasn't genetics. It was an obsession with getting better, no matter what it cost. That's what separates relentless minds from the rest. They don't chase perfection, they chase progress. And they chase it every day, without needing permission, motivation, or recognition. The inner dialogue of the unstoppable. Inside every relentless person is a voice that sounds nothing like the world. When the world says, you've done enough, the voice whispers, not yet. When the world says, you can't, the voice says, watch me. When the world says, rest, the voice says, rise. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. They've connected their identity to their mission so deeply that quitting feels like betrayal. To them, discipline isn't punishment, it's a form of respect. Respect for their craft. Respect for their potential. Respect for the opportunity to grow while others settle. The fire that never goes out. You can spot a relentless person by their eyes. That quiet fire that doesn't flicker with trends or applause. They might lose money, time, friends, opportunities, but never hunger. Because hunger isn't taught, it's forged. When the early excitement fades, hunger stays. When doors close, hunger finds another. When pain hits, hunger turns it into fuel. Steve Jobs once said, I'm convinced that about half of what separates the successful entrepreneurs from the non-successful ones is pure perseverance. Half. Just perseverance. Not genius. Not luck. Just refusing to stop when it gets ugly. Because relentlessness isn't glamorous, it's gritty. It's not fireworks, it's friction. It's waking up every morning with one question echoing in your head. What else am I capable of? When motivation dies, discipline takes the wheel. Most people quit not because they're weak, but because they rely on emotion. Motivation is a spark. It ignites easily but burns out fast. Discipline, however, is a fire pit. Slow, steady, built for the long nights. Relentless people know how to operate without the rush. They don't wait to feel ready. They've trained their mind to act even when every fiber resists. That's what Kobe Bryant meant when he said, "The moment you give up is the moment you let someone else win." Kobe woke up at 4 a.m., trained before his teammates arrived, repeated drills until his hands bled, not for attention, but for ownership. Ownership of his craft. Ownership of his destiny. That's the relentless mindset in motion, quiet, consistent, unshakable. The psychology of relentlessness. Psychologists studying high performers call it grit, passion, and perseverance toward long-term goals. But even that definition doesn't capture its soul. Because grit isn't just endurance, it's faith in motion. It's the unwavering belief that every setback is preparation, not punishment. Relentless people reframe pain. Where most see failure, they see feedback. Where most see rejection, they see redirection. Where most stop, they start again. And they don't chase comfort. They chase capability. They live by one rule. You can't grow and stay safe at the same time. The grind nobody understands. There's a loneliness to relentlessness. While others go out, you stay in. While others talk about dreams, you're building yours in silence. While others need validation, you build discipline. It's not glamorous. It's not loud. But years later, when results finally show, the same people who doubted you will call it talent. They won't see the nights you sacrificed. They won't know about the mornings you woke up exhausted but kept going. They'll never understand how many times you rebuilt your confidence from the ground up. But you'll know. You'll remember every step, and that's what makes it sacred. Becoming relentless, the shift. Relentlessness isn't something you're born with. It's a decision, one you make daily. You stop negotiating with your excuses. You stop waiting for the perfect time. You stop expecting easy. You realize, the obstacle is the opportunity. The hardship is the training. The struggle is the signal you're on the right path. It's the shift from why me to try me. From I hope it works to I'll make it work. That shift, invisible to the world, monumental within, is where mediocrity ends and mastery begins. The legend within. Every relentless person, known or unknown, carries the same silent promise. I will not waste my pain. That's why they rise again after every hit. That's why they rebuild when others retreat. That's why they keep fighting when the world says enough. Because they understand, the purpose of the pain was never to destroy them. It was to refine them into the person capable of their destiny. The relentless don't seek a finish line. They seek evolution. They don't chase comfort. They chase capacity. They don't aim to arrive. They aim to ascend. The paradox of power. You become unstoppable the moment you accept that you're not special, but your effort can be. You don't have to be the smartest, strongest, or most talented. You just have to be the one who won't quit. The paradox is this. The more you endure, the more unbreakable you become. The more you fall, the less fear controls you. The more you lose, the freer you are. Because the relentless mindset isn't about being fearless. It's about being fear-proof. Every day, relentless. The single mother working 2 jobs and still taking night classes. The athlete training in silence after every defeat. The artist creating even when no one buys their work. The student fighting anxiety but still showing up. They may never trend online, but they are the definition of relentless. Because relentlessness isn't about recognition, it's about refusal. Refusal to settle. Refusal to give up. Refusal to stop believing. Becoming the example. If you take one thing from this chapter, let it be this. You owe it to the next generation to show what's possible. Because the world doesn't change through words. It changes through witnessing someone who refused to stop. When you keep showing up, even in silence, someone's watching. A child, a friend, a stranger, and your persistence becomes their permission. That's how greatness multiplies, not through success, but through example. Key takeaways. Relentlessness is not talent, it's tolerance. The ability to endure, adapt, and evolve. Discipline beats motivation. Emotion fades, commitment sustains. Failure doesn't break you. It reveals how badly you want it. Comfort is the enemy. Greatness lives where fear and fatigue meet. The relentless never ask for easier roads, only stronger legs. Action step, the relentless challenge. For the next 7 days, choose one habit you've been avoiding because it's uncomfortable. Do it every day, no matter what. No excuses. No exceptions. Not to prove anything to others, but to remind yourself who you are when it's hard. Because that, right there, is the birth of relentlessness. Chapter 11. The Legacy of Grit. There comes a point in every relentless journey where the story stops being just about you. At first, it's about survival, about proving something, about silencing the doubt, about finding your footing. But somewhere along the way, between the pain, the persistence, and the progress, something shifts. You realize the battle scars you've earned aren't just evidence of endurance. They're evidence of example. You start to see that grit, real, raw, unglamorous grit, doesn't end when you reach your goal. It echoes. It teaches. It transfers. And that's when the relentless become legends. Not because they were perfect, but because they endured publicly enough to give others permission to do the same. The ripple you don't see. Grit doesn't announce itself. It's quiet, like the roots that hold a tree through the storm. Every time you persist through pain, you're planting roots deeper than you think. You might feel unseen, unheard, unappreciated. But somewhere, someone's watching, maybe a child, a friend, a stranger, and they're learning from your endurance. That's how legacies are built. Not from applause, but from example. The people who inspire us most aren't the ones who never fell. They're the ones who kept rising. Because resilience, true, unfiltered resilience, makes others believe in their own strength. When Nelson Mandela walked out of prison after 27 years, the world didn't just see a freed man. It saw the proof of endurance. His calm, his forgiveness, his composure, that was the legacy of grit. He didn't need to shout. His presence spoke. You can break my body, but not my spirit. And that spirit became a movement, a reminder that perseverance can outlive oppression. The unseen lineage of fighters. Every generation inherits stories of the relentless. The single mother who worked 3 jobs so her kids could have one dream. The immigrant who built a business from nothing but hunger and hope. The artist who died unknown but sparked a revolution years later. These are not stories of fame. They are stories of faith. The kind that burns quietly, faithfully, day after day, until it lights the way for someone else. Thomas Edison failed over 1,000 times before inventing the light bulb. But ask yourself, what if he stopped at 999? How much of the modern world would still be living in the dark, literally and metaphorically? Your grit might be the light bulb for someone else's darkness. You might not see it now. You might not hear the thank you. But your endurance today could be the reason someone doesn't quit tomorrow. The moment grit turns into legacy. There's a scene that plays out quietly in millions of lives. It doesn't make headlines. It doesn't go viral. It's just a child watching their parent wake up at dawn, again. It's a friend watching another fight through anxiety, but still show up. It's a stranger reading your story and thinking, maybe I can too. That's the invisible handoff, the moment grit becomes legacy. Because legacy isn't built on wealth, or power, or applause. It's built on endurance that inspires. When you refuse to break, you bend the world around you, even if you don't realize it yet. The art of leaving more than you found. People talk about legacy like it's a statue, something built after death. But legacy is alive. It breathes in every decision, every risk, every rise after failure. It's the sum of your choices, especially the ones made in silence. Legacy is when a teacher believes in a student no one else did. When a coach shows up early so the next generation can dream bigger. When a leader takes the blame and gives away the credit. When a survivor turns their pain into purpose and builds something for others. Every time you endure, you're crafting a blueprint of what's possible. You're whispering to the future, here's how to rise when life hits hard. The quiet builders of tomorrow. Let's talk about the nameless heroes, the quiet builders of progress. The nurse who holds a patient's hand through the night. The soldier who stands guard so others can sleep in peace. The father who works overtime and still shows up to his kid's game. The student who studies through tears because she believes she's meant for more. They don't have platforms, or fame, but they're building the foundation of humanity with their consistency. Because the truth is, grit isn't just about achieving personal greatness. It's about sustaining collective hope. The world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs more relentless ones. The ones who wake up, even on the days they don't feel like it, and move forward anyway. That's how empires are built quietly, one small act of courage at a time. From survival to significance. In your early battles, grit is about surviving. But as you evolve, it becomes about significance. You stop asking, how do I make it? And start asking, how do I make it matter? The relentless realize their mission isn't just personal, it's generational. Look at someone like Malala Yousafzai. She was shot for pursuing education, but instead of breaking, she became a global voice for those without one. That's legacy. Not because she wanted fame, but because she refused to let fear in the story. Her grit didn't just save her life, it shaped millions. That's what happens when endurance meets purpose. One life becomes a lighthouse. The invisible weight you carry. Being relentless isn't easy. It often means carrying the weight others can't. It means believing when no one else does. It means walking paths so rough that those who follow behind can walk smoother. It's heavy work, but sacred. Every scar becomes a story. Every failure becomes a map. Every pain becomes a bridge. And one day, when someone looks back at your journey, they'll realize you weren't just fighting for yourself. You were building a road for others to walk. When grit outlives you, the truest measure of a life well lived isn't how high you climb. It's how long your courage echoes after you're gone. Think of Rosa Parks. One decision, one act of quiet defiance, changed history. Think of Chadwick Boseman, battling cancer in silence while portraying heroes that taught generations what strength looks like. Think of every nameless person whose resilience has sparked a chain reaction of hope. They remind us, you can die, but your grit doesn't have to. Your story can outlive your heartbeat, if you live it fully enough. The transfer of fire. There's a fire that never dies. It simply passes from one soul to another. Every time you keep going, you feed that flame. Every time you refuse to give up, you hand it to the next. It's not about immortality. It's about impact. The world won't remember every word you say, but it will remember how your resilience made it believe again. That's what the legacy of grit really is. An eternal chain of courage. One generation daring the next to keep going. Key takeaways. Grit becomes legacy when it inspires others to rise. Your endurance echoes farther than your achievements ever will. True legacy isn't built in applause, it's built in quiet persistence. The relentless don't just survive life. They shape it for those who come next. Every moment of courage you live becomes a permission slip for someone else to dream. Action step, the legacy reflection. Take a moment tonight to write one thing. If someone watched your life without hearing your words, what would they learn about persistence, purpose, and resilience? That's your living legacy. Start shaping it consciously today. Chapter 12. The road never ends. There comes a night, quiet, starless, still. When the dust settles, the noise fades, and you finally stop running long enough to ask, was it worth it? The long hours, the heartbreaks, the loneliness, the sacrifices, the grind nobody saw. You think about the nights you bled dreams and the mornings you woke up empty, yet still rose anyway. You realize something profound. It was never about reaching a finish line. It was about becoming someone who never stopped walking. The myth of arrival. We grow up thinking life is a race. That if we run fast enough, work hard enough, sacrifice long enough, we'll arrive. At success, at peace, at happiness. But when you finally climb that mountain you spent years chasing, you look around and see, there's another one behind it. And another. That's when you understand the truth. There is no final summit. There is only motion, only meaning, only the next step. The relentless don't climb for applause. They climb because the view keeps evolving. Every milestone is just a marker, not a monument. Every victory is a whisper saying, you're not done yet. The eternal rhythm of becoming. The road to relentless is not paved, it's carved. Every step you've taken has reshaped who you are. At the beginning, you chased dreams out of hunger, then out of pain, then out of purpose. But somewhere along the journey, the chase stopped being about the destination. It became about the evolution. Because once you learn what you're made of, you can't go back to who you were. Once you've tasted resilience, you can't unlearn it. Once you've walked through fire and lived, every flame afterward feels familiar. That's what relentless really means. Not speed, not strength, but continuity. The courage to keep becoming, again and again and again. The road that rebuilds you. This road isn't smooth. It's scarred, cracked, and unpredictable. But that's what makes it sacred. Because every scar you carry has rewritten your story. Every detour has revealed another side of your strength. Every collapse has given you a new reason to rise. There were nights you begged for shortcuts, and life gave you lessons instead. There were times you prayed for comfort, and life handed you challenges that made you unbreakable. And now, standing here, older, wiser, humbler, you see that all the pain wasn't punishment. It was preparation. The beauty of the ongoing fight. The relentless never retire. Because the fire doesn't fade, it evolves. It shifts from proving to teaching. From climbing for self to lifting others. From chasing dreams to creating legacies. The journey doesn't stop when you make it. It deepens. Every season brings new mountains, new fears, new reasons to grow. And you wouldn't want it any other way. Because stillness, for a relentless soul, isn't peace, it's decay. You were never built for comfort. You were built for becoming. The souls who never stop walking. There's a rare kind of person who keeps moving even after the applause fades. Who builds even after the blueprint is complete. Who learns even when they're already teaching. They don't do it for validation. They do it because they can't imagine a life without growth. They are the runners who keep training after the finish line. The artists who keep creating after the masterpiece. The dreamers who keep daring even after success. They've realized something few ever do. Purpose isn't something you find once. It's something you renew daily. And that's what makes them truly relentless. The torch in the trail. At this stage, you begin to see the road differently. You no longer walk for yourself. You walk for the ones watching from behind. The young ones who don't believe they can. The broken ones who think it's too late. The silent ones who've forgotten how to hope. You become the proof that persistence pays. You become the story they'll tell when they need strength. Your footsteps become their map. Your flame becomes their torch. And one day, when your journey ends, they'll keep walking, carrying your fire forward. That's how relentless becomes eternal. The paradox of fulfillment. You started this road thinking you were chasing greatness. Now you realize greatness was chasing you. It was hidden inside every failure, every fear, every fall. You didn't find it. You uncovered it. And fulfillment? It was never about what you achieved. It was about who you became while fighting for it. You learned to love the grind. To trust the silence, to embrace uncertainty, to find beauty in becoming. You've discovered that happiness isn't the absence of struggle. It's the presence of purpose through struggle, the never-ending horizon. So here you are, not at the end, but at another beginning, standing on the edge of a horizon that stretches beyond sight. The road doesn't promise clarity. It promises continuation. Every day, you'll wake up to new tests, new dreams, new chances to rise again. And that's the magic of it all. The road never ends because you were never meant to stop walking. You were meant to keep expanding, creating, daring, and dreaming, not once, but forever. Because as long as you're breathing, your story isn't done. It's just turning another page. The final reflection. Close your eyes. Think of every chapter behind you. The dust, the breaking points, the fire, the grind, the fear, the nights, the battles, the comebacks. Now look forward, not with exhaustion, but with reverence. You've learned that the journey was never meant to be easy. It was meant to be evolutionary. You've learned that relentless isn't an attitude, it's a way of living. A decision to never stop growing. A promise to never let comfort erase your calling. So keep walking, keep building, keep becoming. Because there's no finish line for souls like yours. Only the next sunrise. And somewhere ahead, waiting quietly in the distance, is another version of you. Stronger, wiser, hungrier. Ready to take the next step on the road to relentless. Final note, the journey continues. If you've come this far, you are proof. Proof that persistence beats perfection. That small steps build empires. That the road is the reward. Now go, not to arrive, but to evolve. Not to end, but to ignite. Because this road never ends. It only begins again.